If you are a millennial who is brainwashed into thinking that this absolute disgrace of poor quality, mass-manufactured, mid-century inspired design is the pinnacle of versatile, neutral couch design that'll last you your entire life, or if you got fed up with this being the only modern style of couch out there, or if you're just working with an old ugly couch from a thrift store, this video is for you. If you're new here, my name is Medora. I use they, them pronouns, and I make videos about home design for girls, gays, and theys. Now, without further ado, let's style a couch. I could have made it a lot easier on myself if I had actually styled this couch ahead of time and done the mock-up ahead of time, because then I would have actually had something more to talk about here. But I do have a list of 10 specific things that we will get into, and I will style the couch later and then add it in as we go along. The first thing you can do, especially if you have wooden legs, is to sand and restain the legs. Now, do be careful when you're sanding because sometimes there's a veneer of pretty wood on top of the ugly, cheaper wood. So if that's the case, just make sure not to sand too far and go through the veneer. But you either need to just remove all of the stain and then stain it a completely new color if you're using like a normal penetrating stain. Or there's actually another type of stain that I found recently that you can just do a scuff sand. So you don't actually have to remove all of the previous stain and you can just stain on top of it and it'll work. So I'll link that below, along with my favorite mid-century teak color in just like a normal type of stain. Another idea, if you're kind of crafty, is to upholster the legs using fabric from the backside of the couch. Obviously, this will only work if the couch is up against a wall and you can't see the backside of the couch, but there's all that fabric back there, so you might as well use it. This idea is really giving me like custom designer vibes, even if it's just a boring gray fabric to begin with. It really reminds me of some benches and armchairs that I've seen that'll pop up on screen that I've been really into, and the matching monochromatic continuity feels so custom to me. Now, before we get any further, I do want to clarify that a cheap gray couch will never look like a $10,000 designer couch. That's not how that works. There are definitely things we can do to make it less bad. There are definitely things we can do to bring your attention away from the couch and towards something else that has like a fun color or pattern. But if a couch is a very outdated shape, or if it feels uncomfortable to sit on, there's no changing that. This video is just about doing what we can with what we have. Another option, if you've got the budget, is to reupholster the entire couch. Having a professional do it can easily cost a couple $1,000s, which at that point is just the price of a new questionably made couch. But if you've got a sewing machine and a bunch of patience, it is doable. If you are going to do this, just make sure to look at the seams on your specific couch and take apart the upholstery fabric that's already on there to use that as a pattern for your new fabric, making sure to label pieces as you go. Upholstery fabric can get really expensive really fast. It's usually at least $25 a yard, if not 30, 40, 50, 60, $100. And depending on the size of your couch, you could need 5 or 10 yards. So make sure to do some research about how much fabric your specific style of couch needs before going fabric shopping. And then when you do go fabric shopping, do not go to Joann's. Actually, apparently do go to Joann's because apparently they're going out of business and all of their stores are closing nationwide, so you should be able to get some good deals. Find a local fabric store that has a clearance upholstery section, and you can find upholstery fabric for like $8 a yard. Or if you can't or don't want to put in the work to reupholster your entire couch, get one of these giant linen sheet slipcover things to just like throw over the couch. Now, if you're not in a mood to DIY, switch out the legs. I haven't researched this yet at the time of filming, but I'll link some places down below that you can get replacement legs. If you can, I would definitely recommend taking a well-lit, straight-on photograph of your couch and putting that into some sort of visual thing like Milanote, along with pictures of the legs that you're considering. You might think you really like a specific style of leg, but when you see it with your specific couch, it might just look really off. So I always recommend doing a visual if you can. And also, make sure to pay specific attention to measurements, because if you get legs that are too tall or too short, the experience of sitting on your couch might feel really weird. The seat of most couches is around 16 to 19 inches tall, so just do some basic math and you'll be fine. Okay, number 5 is the last DIY, I promise. And that's that if you got matching pillows that came with your couch, find some unique fabric that you love and just DIY new pillow covers. Again, this doesn't have to be very complicated. As long as you don't have kids or pets that could get harmed, you can even just safety pin some fabric around the cushion. Or if you really don't want to do that, you could always relocate or donate them. But if sewing feels intimidating, or you don't have a sewing machine, first of all, I promise it's not intimidating, and second of all, you don't need a sewing machine to sew. Literally, all you need is a needle and thread. It's really simple. It's really not that hard. Just draw a line on the wrong side of your fabric where you're going to sew, and then turn it inside out. It's really not that hard. It does take some time, but it's a great thing to do while you're watching a show or something. Number 6 is not necessarily the cheapest option on the list, but that's getting a high quality statement throw blanket that you are completely in love with, that you can either drape over the back of the couch or drape over the entire couch. I'd recommend materials like wool or linen or organic cotton, because these will stand the test of time so much better than a cheap polyester blanket from Temu. But if you're on a Temu budget, just go to a thrift store. There won't always be hidden gems at thrift stores, but sometimes there will be. And you want to be the one to find that. If you've been here for any amount of time, you'll know that I love weird combinations of stripes and checks and plaids because they really invoke the process of weaving, which is such an ancient skill that has led humanity to where we currently are today. But I tend to feel a lot more connected to ancestors and all of humanity across time and space with things like this. Number 7 is to make sure that your pillows are not all the same size and shape. Because I feel like I tend to see a lot of couches that have these giant square pillows, and there's like 3 on this side and 3 on this side, and that's all there is. There's no variation, there's no movement. It's all just very static and uniform and lit. So I personally like one big square one on either side of the couch, and then either a small to medium square one in front of it or a lumbar pillow in front of it. Again, this will help with layering and movement and texture and dimension, which will just help bring some more visual interest to your couch, but also keep the visual interest on the pillows and not on the couch itself. While we're on the topic of pillows, number 8 is to get unique, interesting, and generally non-boring pillows. Etsy is a great spot for this, and also Paige Wassell's pillows. Again, can't go a video without mentioning her, but... And I do want to clarify that when I say unique and interesting, I'm not talking so much about shape, because some people can get very creative with the shapes of their pillows, but really I'm more talking about patterns and colors and textures and stuff like that. Number 9 is to remember that context matters. If you pair a cheap couch with a cheap rug and a cheap coffee table, the whole room is going to feel unpleasant to be in. But if you can thrift a solid, sturdy, chunky wood coffee table and a wool rug, that's going to go so much further in trying to help pull your attention away from the couch and to other pretty things. Because let's be honest, most of design is really just about hiding ugly things and focusing your attention on pretty things, at least when it comes to what you see. Last but not least is number 10, which is pretty random, but it's a fun idea that I thought I would throw in there. And that's to get creative about holes and stains and marks and stuff like that. If you've got some relatively small holes in your couch, there are all sorts of different methods for visible mending and patching, like making a patch out of a fun fabric, or using embroidery, or darning with fun colors, or something like that. Or say, for example, if you have a toddler who thought it would be a really fun idea to take a permanent marker to the couch, you might want to consider embracing that and having all of your friends doodle on the couch when they come over and turning it into kind of like a living artwork. So basically, all of that is really just to say, let the couch fade into the background and put more interesting things on top of it and around it, but without ignoring the existing color scheme. If your couch is a cool gray, make sure to go with a cooler color palette and just do one warm pop of color so that the couch doesn't stick out like a sore thumb if you put a bunch of terracotta pillows on there. If you want to support this channel, go to patreon.com/medorakia, and if you want to work with me one-on-one, go to medorakia.com. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe and check out this video. Okay, is that enough holding still? I think so. Okay, bye.